I don't know what to do for an intro. So we're just gonna go to it. All right, Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. It's their debut studio album. Came out in the year of 2000. Before a lot of people that are probably gonna click on this video were born. It is a really big name in the genre of nu metal. And a majority of the album is produced by Mike Shinoda, but it's also produced by Don Gilmore. For a debut album, especially for a band like Linkin Park, this performed really well and has a lot of popularity. And chances are you might know a song off of this album, even if you don't know the name Linkin Park. This album touches on a handful of Chester's traumatic childhood, including his constant drug and alcohol abuse, his parents getting divorced, and overall just bad relationships that he's ever had with anyone. Moving on to the album cover over here. It looks really funny for me because I'm just pointing at a green screen. But moving on to the album cover over here, the way I interpret it is a person trying to move forwards in everything, really. And I feel like the flag is kind of a marker to show progress. The graffitied wings in the back kind of remind me like stretching your arms out, sort of the way that you would to scare like a animal or whatever. I don't know, like a lion, whatever fucking animal it was. Now that I've briefly touched on that, I want to go on to some of the songs in this album, starting off with Pushing Me Away. This song is an amazing song, and I love the harmonics that it opens with on the guitar before going into the absolutely brutal riff that leads into the verses. And the verses actually also have those harmonics playing in the back. I also really enjoy Mike's rapping in the pre-chorus. The flow of it just feels nice. Listening to it feels nice. And I love the way that he explains that regardless of how anybody is, that they will experience some sort of issue. As he explains with the lines saying that things fall apart and people that just don't frown, they're always smiling, they're always uplifting. Eventually they have some sort of breakdown at some point too, which I think is just an amazing form. I don't know. I think it's an amazing way to express that people share similar things. The chorus goes into the idea of having bad relationships of any sort, rather that be friendships, significant others, or just anything in general. Not to mention also just closing lines on the verses are really good as well, with explaining any issues and how, in this case, Chester, but anybody that can really relate to this song, has grown as a person, with these lines saying things about how this will be the last time that I'll do this for you. This will be the last time that I do that for you, and I'm not going to do it again. And I really like how going through this song and really breaking it down makes you really feel the growth that the person singing, in this case Chester, has experienced. Even the chorus goes into that, where he realizes that he shouldn't have gone through that, or he shouldn't have gone through this. And he realizes that it's almost like a test, sort of, and he's been able to grow off of that. Going into the next track, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest for you tonight. I would like to introduce A Cure for the Itch. That's a reference to the song, by the way, just in case you didn't get it. This is an absolutely amazing and beautiful track that showcases Mr. Han, aka the DJ of Linkin Park, and his absolutely beautiful skills. I fucking love this track. Even though I don't have it liked on Spotify and I don't have it anywhere else, really, it is a fucking banger, and I'm not gonna lie. Taking notes on this album and listening to this album so that I could do this review on it, that track won't leave my head. It will not leave my head. I can hear the very few vocals that are there in my brain right now because that is just such a banger track. It is absolutely amazing, and I love how it really goes into depth on Johan's scratching and his skills as a DJ. Not to mention, I really love that the closing instruments or samples or whatever is reused for the bonus edition of High Voltage, which I will talk about in a little bit. While I won't go in depth on the song, another really good showcase of Johan's skills as a DJ and his scratching and everything is off of the third track of the album, With You, which sounds really nice, and it's whenever you hear it, you know that you're about to start hearing that beautiful 7-string guitar riff. The way that the scratches build up to that riff is amazing, and I love that. The next track that I really want to quickly touch on is A Place for My Head, which I personally feel like it goes into Forgotten as well, but that's just me. And it opens with a really good metaphor, I would say, about bad relationships, where Mike is claiming that he sees the moon and how it shines, and it's getting that light and that source and everything from the sun. But the sun isn't providing the light expecting something back from the moon. He's using this metaphor to explain that unlike the sun, which doesn't immediately turn around, this person in question immediately turns around to Mike the second that he does a favor for him to ask for something in return. And that is a really good metaphor, I think, for any bad relationships of any sort. And again, similar to other tracks throughout this album, this is a really strong showcase of Mike Shinoda's rapping. This next track I want to talk on is from the bonus edition of Hybrid Theory, and not the EP, but the actual studio album. So this is a different version of it, and it will not be counting towards the final score because I am not going off of the bonus edition. I just want to talk about this song because it's an absolute banger. It has amazing rapping from Mike Shinoda that, while a little cringy, because, you know, it's rapping, is still just amazing, and it hits hard, and it really, for me, expresses the way that he thinks and feels about rap. I also think that towards the end of the song, more or less around a bridge, if that's even what you want to call it, I'm not entirely sure. But towards the end of that song, Chester also starts singing, and Chester Bennington, being the amazing vocalist that he is, has absolutely empowering vocals there that really make you understand what he's saying, feeling like he's always being targeted in some way. The next two tracks I want to talk about are Paper Cut and One Step Closer, and the reason I'm bringing these two together is because Paper Cut sort of bleeds into One Step Closer. Throughout Paper Cut, it uses whispers to really drive the idea of any mental issues that people may be experiencing. And it shows a great representation of paranoia, which is constantly mentioned towards the pre-chorus, I believe. And towards the ending of the track, it really mellows down a lot to allow some breathing room for one of the heaviest tracks off of this album, which is One Step Closer. This song opens with a really nice riff that has a couple of harmonics there, but then it gets to a heavier riff that actually uses power chords and octaves. The build-up using the F sharp power chord with a couple muted notes going into the chorus really gets you prepared for that chorus. And when that chorus actually kicks in as Chester is using those brutal screams, that really gets the idea across that interacting with this person drives Chester or the singer or whoever it is, maybe even you if you're relating to this song, down, and it drags them down, and it pushes them in all the wrong ways. And it is an amazing way that Chester uses his screams. The riff in the chorus as well feels like it's almost sort of counting down to something. The opening verse also really touches on the way that issues are really affecting the singer or Chester or, again, whoever that relates to this. Using lines like "wish I could find a way to disappear" and I find the answers aren't so clear, which, by the way, are back to back, which is why they both rhymed. Lastly, you can really feel the anger in Chester's vocals, obviously because he's screaming, but even if he were to just say that a bit calmer, you could still feel the anger and the frustration and just the overall irritation that he gets as he's screaming, "Shut up," throughout the whole bridge, essentially. And I always get it as like, please stop talking. I am trying to have a conversation with you and I am trying to explain to you how I'm feeling and you won't stop talking. And that's the way I always that's the way I get it out of that bridge, which is why personally I can really feel the anger out of that. Lastly, of course, the most popular track off of this album, "In the End," because of course you cannot talk about Hybrid Theory without bringing this up. This song was the fourth and last single of the album, coming out in 2001, I believe. The song opens up with the absolutely iconic piano coming from Mike Shinoda, along with some scratches from Joe Hahn. Of course, there's also the starting lines throughout the verses that Chester will actually sing as well, almost sort of whispering it as Mike Shinoda is getting ready to start rapping. For example, the very first few words, it starts with one thing, I don't know why. Towards the end of the verses, the last lines of a couple little segments, Chester will actually hold out that last word, which I think really complements the rest of Mike's rapping that builds up to the chorus, especially with Chester holding that. It makes you feel like you're holding your breath for that long to breathe in and really just let something out, which leads into the chorus, obviously. Chester's vocals in the chorus absolutely captures whatever emotion it is so well. I don't even know how to describe it. Leading over into the bridge, it starts off a lot more chill, still percussion and whatnot, a couple samples and scratches from Mr. Hahn. But Chester's vocals are a lot more chill, and they let you relax a little bit so that you could build up to the rest of this song. Which is also why, as he repeats what he's already just said, he adds distortion up until the rest of the song in his vocals, which I absolutely love. It shows. I like to think of it as it explaining this thing, and then repeating the idea, showing. I don't know what I'm trying to go. Overall, obviously, In the End is an amazing nu metal album, right there next to Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, or even Blind by Korn, if you really want to go that far, or Chop Suey by System of a Down. Right now, I'd like to go into some of my favorite songs off of the album and my least favorite songs off of the album, starting off with my favorites, of course, because who wouldn't want to start with that, which, for me personally, would be Runaway, A Place for My Head, Forgotten, and With You. I've always loved Forgotten. That one's always stuck in my head really well. I'm not exactly sure why, but it does. And then With You, I just really love the vocals that come from Chester. My least favorite, coming from a Linkin Park fan, to no surprise, is probably going to be In the End. It was really hard for me to choose even just one least favorite because I absolutely love this album. And personally, I think it's near damn perfect. But if I had to think of a track off of this album that I listened to the least, In the End is definitely up there. The last thing I want to explain before I reveal my rating on this album is any flaws that it might have had. And personally, I think that there's a couple, but like I said earlier, this album is near damn perfect. One of the biggest issues I would say this album experiences is that it's not nearly as diverse as the rest of their discography. While each member gets time to shine, it's not the same way that it is in other albums. For example, in Given Up off of Minutes to Midnight, where the verses are really carried by the bass and the percussion along with Chester's vocals. And even future songs, for example, The Messenger off of A Thousand Suns has a beautiful acoustic guitar along with Chester's absolutely angelic vocals accompanying it. I said that word right. Come on, thumbs up. Let's go. I've also seen the argument online mainly on Twitter really, that some songs off of this album are forgettable. I've especially seen that Forgotten has actually been forgotten. Um, and while that may be true, because personally, I do forget about Points of Authority, which I don't know how. Not to mention, again, don't know how, because I said it was one of my favorites, but I also occasionally forget about With You. Don't know how, but I do. But overall, regardless of forgettability or little to no diversity throughout the songs, I still think that this album is amazing. But I don't like giving a lot of things a 10 out of 10, which is why I will be giving this album an 8.4. Because genuinely, I love this album, but it is not my favorite. It is my second favorite, though, but I will have to explain what my favorite album is whenever I actually review that album. But for now, Hybrid Theory. Let me know what you guys thought about this album in the comments if you've ever actually given it a listen. If not, go ahead, try it if you want to. Come back, let me know what y'all thought of it. And again, just want you guys to know, this is my opinion. Throughout this video, I've constantly said, in my opinion, personally, I think, like all of these sorts of things, because I don't think this is right. Okay, I would probably bring up this score or lower it occasionally, depending on, I don't know, whatever. But personally, I think this is a good album, which is why I gave it an 8.4. And again, this is my opinion. If you think it's wrong, please let me know why, kindly, in the comments. And let me know what you guys think. So, I love you all, and have a good day.